Hey there, this is John with Heroes and Legends, and welcome to Day 5 of official Conspiracy Take the Crown previews. Now, we have 9 cards to look at today, including the one you see on the screen, which again is another very big reprint. More on that later. Now, if you've been watching the videos over the course of the week, you know that I was expecting to start our full set review today. Being Friday, typically they do release the full set. However, we found out this morning that they are doing something a little different this time. They're going to release the full set on Monday. So we'll begin our full set review on Monday with all the white cards and some of the multicolor cards. But today, since we have new cards to talk about, we'll go ahead and talk about those cards. Now, the reason they're doing the reveal a few days later is this weekend they are doing special events at 7 stores across the world for Conspiracy. So I'm sure they want to have some surprises for the players involved in those, and some surprises that will come out through social media and what have you over the weekend, which I think is actually a pretty cool idea. I wish it was wider than just 7 stores, but maybe this is a test for something in the future, because I've said for many years it would be fun to go to a pre-release and not know what cards I'm going to open. That would actually be kind of crazy if maybe I only knew some of the cards in the set but not all of them. Could make for actually a lot of fun. I don't know if that's possible in this day and age with like the Pro Tour comes up 2 weeks after the set's released and all that, but I don't know, maybe they're trying it out, so I guess we'll see for the future, or even maybe just the next Conspiracy set or something like that. So having said all of that, let's look at the cards without any further delay, and I'm going to start off with a card that actually is not confirmed by Wizards. This is more of a leak than it is a preview, and you can see on the screen there it is show and tell. 1 blue and 2. It's a mythic sorcery. Each player may put an artifact, creature, enchantment, or land card from his or her hand onto the battlefield. Now, this is not confirmed. This could be fabricated, so take it for what it's worth at this point. The rest of the cards we're going to see today are all regular previews that are confirmed, but this one is just looks like a cell phone picture of a card. So first off, a little history about Show and Tell. Originally printed in Urza's Saga, it did see a Judges promo reprint. The art that you see in this version of the card here is from the Judges promo. That's the only place you can get it in foil. Judges promo will cost you about $80 or so, whereas the regular version will run you about $55. So if this truly is in the set, this is another really big reprint. This is a card that sees plenty of legacy play. There's a deck named after it, Sneak and Show, which plays this in Sneak Attack, and you can kind of imagine how that works. But it's a fantastic card just in a lot of different formats. So if this is there, another big money card inclusion that a lot of people are looking for, myself included, in Eternal Masters, and didn't see it. So having said that, like I said, I've seen some elaborate hoaxes in the past, so I'm not going to get super excited about this quite yet. But hopefully it'll be confirmed and it will be true and it won't turn out to be a fake. I mean, when you look at the card, generally it looks pretty good, but like I said, I've seen some good ones in the past that have fooled me. Next we have Hymn of the Wilds, and this one is a mythic colorless conspiracy, and all the cards you're going to see at this point are true preview cards that have been confirmed by Wizards. Start the game with this conspiracy face up in the command zone. The first creature spell you cast each turn costs 1 less to cast. You can't cast instant or sorcery spells. Here's another card that's going to allow you to completely change the way you would normally draft. And I just love that design. I mean, this is a mythic. It's not going to show up all the time. But let's say you just open this in your first pack. You can choose to go the route of just picking up creatures and foregoing instants and sorceries. This can be very powerful, I think, in this particular format, just because, first off, creature casting costs are kind of pushed. I mean, they really want this to be a fast, aggressive format. They want you to put creatures down, attack early and often, and you see that reflected in the casting costs. Now, you play this card, and those casting costs are even 1 cheaper. That could be very, very powerful. Now, maybe not as powerful in a multiplayer game compared to a one-on-one situation, but it could still be very, very good. I would love to try this out in Conspiracy. And if you do want to run this in like your cube at home, could be very strong, maybe too strong. That seems a little crazy, actually. I guess it just depends on what cards you're surrounding this with in your cube. Incendiary Dissound. This is the second conspiracy of the day. This one's the red common one. It's a hidden agenda conspiracy. So you start the game with this conspiracy face down in the command zone and secretly name a card. You may turn this conspiracy face up at any time and reveal the chosen name. Creatures you control with the chosen name have pay a red. This creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Now, we saw some of these in other colors. They're nice little efficient combat tricks that carry on for the rest of the game. Now, we saw these show up in some other colors, these common conspiracies, and this is the red version we're looking at here. And I mean, they're nice little value cards. They're not something you're going to first pick, obviously. You might just pick these up later in the pack, but if you're in the color that you pick up, red in this example, you're going to get a little bit of value out of this thing. Even if it's just one creature, it's a little bit of value. It's a nice little combat trick at least one time. And if you happen to pull out maybe a couple, 2, 3 commons with the same name, there's even more value. If you happen to get a spy kit, there's even more value. So don't underestimate these things. I think they can be very decent if used as combat tricks. At least one time you may be able to surprise your opponent. Now granted, they're going to see its face down and maybe assume that you have something coming, but at the same time it's going to be hard to play around all these different conspiracies. Next we have Stunt Double. 1 blue and 3. It's a shapeshifter, 0/0 flash. This one's a rare. You may have Stunt Double enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield. So many of you remember a little card called Clone back in the old days. It was originally from Alpha Beta Unlimited. This is Clone with Flash. There you have it. Clone just wasn't good enough, so let's give it Flash. It's kind of funny because I love the fact that they're doing so many unique things with this set. And first off, let me say, I love the name Stunt Double. I love the art. I think it's very tongue-in-cheek and just kind of fun. And as much as I do enjoy the lore and the more serious lore that we've had over the last couple of years, there's something to be said for just some fun, whimsical Magic cards. This is one of them. I mean, yesterday we saw Garbage Fire. There's a card called Garbage Fire. I mean, that's amazing. So I love some of the flavor text. I just love a lot of the things they've done with this set. And not only are we getting amazing reprints like Berserk that we saw yesterday, but we're also getting new takes on some fan favorite cards like Clone, and this is an example of that. Clone used to be a very powerful card in the old days. It's fell off over time as the games changed, but it's still a fun card. It does still see Commander play. It shows up here and there in different places, some cubes, and now you have a potential, at least, to take that concept and make it a little bit better. And not only is it the best creature on the board now, but it's also a combat trick that might be good enough to encourage more people to play it in their commander decks or put it in their cubes. And if that happens, I think this card did its job. Next we have Subterranean Tremors. Red and X, it's a mythic sorcery. Subterranean Tremors deals X damage to each creature without flying. If X is 4 or more, destroy all artifacts. If X is 8 or more, put an 8/8 red lizard creature token onto the battlefield. Alright, board sweeps are always good. Granted, this one doesn't touch flyers, but that's okay. You can use that to your advantage sometimes too by having a lot of flyers in your deck. But what this does, which most board sweeps don't do, is if you can pump it enough, you get to destroy all artifacts and deal with a problematic artifact that could be on the board, or if your opponent has like a lot of mana rocks or something to really put them back. That's pretty exciting. The lizard token, the 8/8, that's pretty cool too. I mean, okay, it doesn't have evasion or trample or anything, but at the same time, it's still an 8/8. That ain't bad, especially if you're able to get rid of most of the other creatures on the board. So if nothing else, your opponent may have to just now chump block with the flyer they had left or what have you. This could be very strong. Great commander card. Phenomenal commander card. This is going to be awesome for you in limited. This is going to see a lot of cubes. And, you know, can this see play in maybe a vintage or legacy? I would want to test it in vintage just because vintage has a lot of fast mana. And artifacts are a huge part of vintage. There's decks like workshop decks out there. A lot of people are playing, of course, boxes and things like that. So this could wreak a lot of havoc in a vintage game. Now, getting to 5 mana, is this really where you want to spend your mana in vintage? Will it be countered? So on and so forth. I mean, you'd have to kind of test that, I guess. I'd like to test it out. But I feel like there's at least some potential there to think about it. Next we have another big reprint. It's Birds of Paradise. 1 green. It's a bird. This is a rare. Flying 0/1. Tap to add any mana of any color to your mana pool. Now, Birds of Paradise financially isn't like a huge card that's going to break the bank. If you want to pick up the least popular versions of this card, probably be either revised or 4th edition, you can pick this up for about $7 each. If you want a nicer copy, you can get copies for probably $8 or $9 very easily. You can even get like the Ravnica copy, which is what this art is based off of, for I think $8 or $9 very easily. This is a card though that plays a big role in Magic's history. Originally printed in Alpha Beta Unlimited, if you want to grab an Alpha copy, it'll only run you about $1,000, but that's more because of the nature of Alpha than it is the actual card. But the first half, little more than half of Magic's lifespan, this card was kind of printed into oblivion. It always got a printing, just reprinted over and over and over again. But in recent times, where the game shifted away from fast mana, this hasn't been printed in a while. There's a lot of players that don't have copies, that would like copies. It's playable basically in every format that it's ever been legal in. Now, of course, it's not standard legal right now, but it does see play in Modern, Legacy, Vintage, Cubes, Commander, you name it. List goes on and on. Other than maybe Pauper. Sorry, Pauper players. We never saw a common one yet. So it's awesome, and it's just another way to introduce this card to more people. And you know what, maybe I go to a draft, I pick up a copy or two of this, and in the long run I don't have to fork out $7-8 for another copy in the future. That's actually pretty cool. It's a useful card, it's a part of history. I'm glad it's here. Next we have Caller of the Untamed. 1 green and 3. It's an Elf Shaman rare, 2/4. Before you shuffle your deck to start the game, you may reveal this card from your deck and exile a creature card you drafted that isn't in your deck. Pay X and tap. Put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of a card that you exiled with cards named Caller of the Untamed. X is the converted mana cost of that card. Wow, this is actually very, very strong. First off, though, before I get into the card, I want to call out the art. That art is beautiful. The tiger looks like photorealistic, amazing. So, you know, I always say I really appreciate a lot of the old art. I was talking about Desertion, and I was happy they kept the old art earlier in the week. But I also appreciate some of the new pieces that we see. This is amazing. Even if I wasn't planning on playing this card, I'd want this in my collection because it's beautiful. That's awesome. So, you know, Wizards, artists, I mean, keep up the great work. This is fantastic. Now, the card itself, very powerful. Now, if you're not in a draft format, granted, it's only a 2/4 for 4, not super exciting. But if you're playing Cube or Conspiracy Draft, this is amazing. So now you just have to decide what cards you don't want to main deck. And as long as you can make that sacrifice and be happy with it, guess what? You play this card, and then you can just go ahead and pay the X and tap it to repeatedly throughout the game make tokens that are copies of that particular card. So maybe it's a card that is off your color, maybe it's a card that has a great enters the battlefield effect. One in particular could be any card that gives you the Monarch token. That could be very good to just keep getting the Monarch token back all the time and getting the card draw off that. That could be phenomenal. We saw the one card a few days ago that gives you the Monarch token and drains your opponent for 2. That's a nice little bonus that you can do repeatedly throughout the game. Fantastic card, and you can imagine all the crazy broken things you could do with it in Cube, right? I mean, I don't even want to start going down that road. You could probably come up with stuff all day long. So, having said that, another thing that interests me about this card is the fact that all week I've been saying, well, if you play this card, it seems a tad expensive, but you're still getting the Monarch token, which means unless something goes really wrong, you're going to get to draw a card at the end of the turn. Well, we found the thing that could go really wrong. This could basically steal that Monarch token from you before your turn ends if they're able to tap this and put a creature into play, or a token into play that is a copy of a creature that allows them to take the Monarch token. So love what they did with this card. Phenomenal. Alright, another good green card, Regal Behemoth, 2 green and 4. It's a rare lizard with trample, 5/5. When this enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. Whenever you tap a land for mana while you're the Monarch, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. This combos really well with the previous card we just saw for obvious reasons. But yeah, you know what? I'd be happy in limited playing a 5/5 with trample for 6. I would be okay with that. But on top of it, I'm also getting the Monarch token. I'm probably getting a card draw at the end of the turn. And as long as I can hold on to that token, I'm getting an increase in my mana, and it can be mana of any color if I need help with a splash or something. This is just doing a ton of things for 6 mana. Great commander card. Fantastic commander card. This is also a fantastic cube card. I just really love the design overall. Alright, last card of the day, and it's another big hit for green. A lot of strong green cards today. Selvala, Heart of the Wilds, 2 green and 1. This is a legendary Elf Scout Mythic, 2/3. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, its controller may draw a card if its power is greater than each other creature's power. Pay a green and tap. Add X mana and any combination of colors to your mana pool where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Okay, so first off, again, I want to give props to the artist. Amazing art on this card. Secondly, you don't see abilities like this much anymore. I mean, you remember back in the old days, there were cards like Raphaelos and stuff that allowed you to tap for large quantities of mana. Now, this is a little more conditional in some ways than a card like Raphaelos. That one's just a little easier to activate probably, but I feel like in most cases, this isn't going to be super hard to get going. If you have a 4-power creature, for example, you can basically Black Lotus for up to any 3 color every turn. That's kind of crazy. So this card just becomes really, really strong. I'm not really sure what we're ramping into. I mean, we did see the one card that would give us the 8/8 Lizard earlier today, but we haven't seen like any like big, huge creatures necessarily, or reprints of large creatures, at least not yet. I mean, we're still going to see more cards Monday, right? I'm expecting to see some big targets still in the set, but regardless, I mean, there are enough places to put your mana, especially when you get mana of any color. It does allow you to be a little more flexible with certain things in your deck. Just really strong. I think this card has potential to see play in maybe Vintage and or Legacy. I don't know if it's needed in the Elf deck. I mean, the Elf deck's really good as is, but maybe you throw 1 or 2 of these in and maybe it gets a little better. I don't know. I'd like to kind of see that, but it is another way to ramp into big threats like Craterhoof Behemoth or something like that. So potentially I would like to play test that, but aside from that, this will be great in Commander. This will be great in cubes all over the place, and it's going to be very strong if you're lucky enough to open this one up in your draft. Fantastic card. So as you can tell, I am very enamored with this set. I think a lot of people are. Love the reprints we're getting, love just the uniqueness of the art and the flavor, as well as just the gameplay and the draft mechanics. Incredible stuff. So like I said, Monday we will be back and we're going to look at all of the white cards in the set as well as some of the multiplayer cards. As we go through next week, we'll assess the entire set. So stay tuned for that. Now this weekend I'm going to play by ear. I'm not really sure what's going to happen with like spoilers and preview cards and stuff. So if there's any big news, I will definitely deliver it. If not, I'll just have other content, so we'll just kind of see how it goes. But until then, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks as always for watching. This video, like all my videos, was made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Even a donation of $1 helps me to keep growing this community and creating better quality content for all of you. Check out our Patreon page for exclusive giveaways and future goals for the channel. If you haven't yet had a chance to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the MTG news, spoilers, set reviews, product openings, or finance videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.